Hello, everybody, and welcome to another presentation from myself, Gary from Alternative Interactions, and
Isabella from Tarot by Isabella.
Isabella and I were chatting the other day, talking about potential splits, what's going on, there's changes, and we're noticing lots of bits and pieces going on. And just pre show, we were having a little chat, and Isabella came up with something genius. It's absolute genius what she came up with. And I think this would be a really good introduction to the show. So I can then ask Isabella to look into her crystal ball, sorry, and we can then move forward and see where this leads us from what we get from the crystal ball. But Isabella, would you like to share with everybody your little glimpse of geniusness?
Genius, genius. um, when my kids were small, and that is more than 20 years ago, they had a favorite movie DVD they wanted to watch. And this DVD was like almost every day repeating itself. And the title of this DVD is A Bug's Life. And for those of you that have not heard about this movie, I can very much recommend it you all to watch it because this movie is so special and it really talks about uh, our time and also other times before that, how the power structure is built. And it's very informative, educational. You say educational? And well, for those of you that have not seen the A Bug's Life, the main story is about a community of ants. And they all work together, and there's peace and harmony, and they gather their food for winter and so on. And suddenly, from nowhere, and they were flying, because that is also important, they come from above, a gang of grasshoppers. And they invaded this peaceful ant community and they began to steal their food. They come up with a lot of rules. You have to do this. If you don't do that, we're going to punish you. We're going to kill you. We're going to this. We're going to that. And the ants were looking up at the grasshoppers that were much, much bigger than them. And they got scared. Oh my God, they are so big. They are so powerful. And they're really going to hurt us. So they complied. They did what the grasshopper told them to do, even if the ants were millions of them and the grasshoppers were just a couple of few of them. But they were scared for the ants. They were scared of their looks. They were scared of their potential powers. And the grasshoppers all along, they knew a secret that they fought very hard not to let the ants know about. And that was if the ants realized that they could overthrow the grasshoppers at any moment, just because there are so many of them, then the rain would be over and they could not feed on the ants, on their food, on their hard labor. So that's the main story, and how the ants suddenly realized, my God, they are nothing. Those dumb grasshopper elites are nothing against us. So, well, the end of that movie, well, you can watch it yourself if you want. I don't want to be total reveal everything, but I think you can imagine how that movie ends since it's a child movie. And that began more than 20 years ago, I think, this movie. And it's still very up to date on things we are seeing around us and what the whole world scene is evolving into. So the bug's life is something we could have in mind and could help us a lot on the journey forward. Yeah.
That's a brilliant analogy. And I think most of the audience will be aware of A Bug's Life. It might have been called Ants in different countries. They
Mm,
sometimes give it different titles, but I'm pretty sure you can find it. And there are some very interesting clips on YouTube. You don't have to watch the whole film, though it is quite entertaining. But there are key speeches that have been cut out. And if you search Bug's Life on YouTube, you will certainly come up with some of the key speeches about if they ever wake up and realize we're done for. And
mm,
as Isabella said very clearly, the grasshoppers are the dumb elites. And this analogy of the waking up point where suddenly one or two of the ants knew that they were being taken advantage of.
mm,
One or two ants.
mm.
Then all of a sudden, via the 100 monkey syndrome, if we want to use that terminology, the rest started to get it. And as soon as they started to get it, it started to spread and spread and spread
Yeah.
to the point of no return.
Mm,
Now, I'm not on Facebook, but Isabella has also noticed something on Facebook recently. And Mel, my partner, she's on Facebook. And this isn't something that's happened overnight. It's been gradually changing. But at the moment, it seems to be really, really large. Now, as I'm not on Facebook, I'm not going to talk about it, Isabella. But would you like to tell me, please, what you've noticed about Facebook?
Well, not only me, but other people around me have also noticed, and we have this really discussed it. If we compare Facebook to about 4 or 5 years ago, when it was heavily restricted and posts were taken down just because they contained a wrong word or a wrong image, and very heavy censored. But lately, this last year, I have noticed a lot of posts in the flow regarding say no. Say no to the authorities. Don't buy this lie. This is a lie. This is AI. This is not true. This is this, and that. And people really digging and digging and coming up with contra information to whatever the authorities or the government or the mainstream media is putting out. And it goes quickly. Within a second or two, they are, especially in the comment section, you see a lot of people saying no. This is not true. I will not comply. People wake up. Can't you see what they are doing? And this I have never seen before. So many posts that are saying the contra, what the mainstream or what the governments want to impose on the people.
Now, this is really interesting because this goes back to the beginning of the show with the ants and the waking up and that movement forward. For me personally, I think in the last week or 2 weeks, 3 weeks, we've started to go through a big shift. And I think there's been a big, this is my own personal observation and feelings about this, that we've started to really split between the 3D and the 5D. That chasm is getting larger and larger. Now, I have a question related to the all what we've just been saying now for Isabella and the crystal ball. Are we now not necessarily going into, but are we at the stage, perhaps the last act of the show that we're in, the period of time where no and non-compliance to authority begins en masse, just as we saw with the ants?
Yeah.
And so are we going to then start to bring down the governments and everything else like that? Because Isabella did an amazing reading the other day regarding Denmark, Finland, Iceland, and Norway. And it didn't matter about the countries or where they were, it was the information that I picked up from. This linked in very much to a show Isabella and I done previously about governments falling. We've seen clearly the governments are going to fall. We weren't sure how, it's not obvious. And in the reading on Denmark, Finland, Iceland, and Norway, Isabella clearly sees something happening from now onwards, building momentum through the winter period. And the following year, the governments don't appear to be there anymore. So, my question for you, Isabel, I'm sorry it's long winded, but are we now in the last act of the show where no and non compliance to authority begins via the masses? Could you please look at that for me
Yes,
in the lovely crystal ball?
I will. Just a moment. Just concentrate for a few moments on the no and the final stage. Okay, let's see. Hmm. The first thing I saw, and it could be related to what will happen, that people will get more and more aware of how they have been poisoned. Because I see a lot of labels on food items and people more reading them and questioning, why does this food contain this and this and this and this and this? And that is a huge stage, because when people will wake up to how they have been poisoned through food and drink and water, they will also try to avoid those poisons, and that will clear their minds and their eyes so they can see more clearly and think more clearly how they have been manipulated. And whatever fear or whatever doubt people have had, it will turn more into anger, even if anger is not a good emotion, but still it's better than fear. And an anger and courage to say no. I will not do this. I will not eat this. I will not. No. And I also saw a lot of men on the streets, angry men protesting. No, because we have been poisoned so much that many men, not all, many men have lost their manhood. They has lost their, no, they have been, no, I better don't say anything against it. I better don't do it. Better stay quiet and comply. And that spark, no, we have to defend our families. We have to defend our children. That will wake up again. And that is needed as a final stage, because the elites or the manipulative control system, they want to erase the sexes. They don't need strong warriors. With strong warriors, they can impose them. They need, how you call them? Soy boys. Someone who doesn't know if they're a man or a woman, or maybe both, and be focused on that instead of constructing a healthy community for all. Mm. Here I see something symbolical. When there are enough strong men and women, I'm not only saying that women are also extremely strong in if they want to do something. And I see a patch of strong women in this country, this country, this country, suddenly the heavens will open, symbolical, and new light will come down. And this strong light is the foundation of the new world, the new 5D world. And it's like we need your approval to come and help you. If we don't have an X number of people wanting to live in a new world, then we will not interfere and help you. But when they see that there are bright, strong souls everywhere, then they will come in with the last resource and help clean out um, the rest of those parasites. And we will walk into the new world. Mm. And it's more a big awakening, a wake up in people's minds. Oh my God, I have been so fooled. I have been so dumbed down. Enough of it. Enough. And that is a big no because I hear like a war cry, a war scream. No! From every corner of the planet. Yeah. That's what I could see in the crystal ball.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. And again, fits in very much with the analogies that we've been talking about. Now, something that just crossed my mind and it hadn't really ever crossed my mind before, when you said about the men waking up and the last of the strong men,
Mm,
at the moment, governments, the grasshoppers,
yeah.
are pushing
That
for
came from
war.
above.
Yeah, they're pushing for war. And they're pushing for war to take the last of the strong men and get rid of them in a way that is less unappetizing to the masses to understand.
Mm,
Because if you put all the men in a place and remove them, just like they did in World War One and World War Two, then the last of the strong men are gone, and then they can continue along with their plans. It's very interesting. I saw recently that in the British Army they have record numbers of serving army personnel quitting.
mhm.
That just sprung to mind as an interesting side part of what the crystal ball had shown us, and I think is very key to what's going on. Because certainly, I don't think in the United Kingdom, and I'm sure it's very similar for all countries now, that the
Mm,
youth have got no interest in fighting for
yeah,
their current prime ministers, kings, queens, or whoever.
yeah. There are a lot of how do you call it? Weapon refusal. Yeah,
Yeah,
they
yeah,
don't want to go into war.
no, no. It's really interesting, and
Mm,
it certainly fits into the feeling we've got. Now, one of the big things that came out as well, and it's something that's really been on my mind, is breaking the spell of fear.
yeah,
When we think about how the grasshoppers have controlled the ants, they did it by the perception of fear, and they had one or two enforcers. And we already know who the enforcers are. That's the police, the courts, and the system that they're placed upon us to hold
mhm,
us down. But the spell of fear is now breaking. And as once the spell of fear has gone from us, we are uncontrollable. Not in a bad way, but our minds will start to think and see things in a very clear way. And one of the ways that the crystal ball showed that very clearly was the food packages and the allergies. You start
Yeah.
looking at it, So you buy a beef burger, for instance, and the beef burger should really have 100%, or not 99% beef, a little bit of salt, and a little bit of pepper. And if it's an onion beef burger, beef, onion, salt, and pepper should be the only ingredients that go
Mm.
into a beef burger. And yet I've seen examples on the internet of beef burgers with 10 or 15 ingredients with them. That's not a beef burger anymore. It's a chemical cocktail pretending to be a beef burger. And when people start to see this, and it comes down to the fact that the governments have allowed it, but they haven't only allowed it, it's been a plan, it's been a system of control that they're placed upon us. Because remember, when we're fueling ourselves in a bad way, we feel bad. And when we fuel ourselves in a better, cleaner way, we're stronger.
And this I just, sorry if I interrupt you. We can also take the candy industry for children. That is extremely poisonous additives they add to the candy. It's not only sugar, it's all the other stuff. And that makes the children ill. And what does a parent? Well, they have to take care of the sick little ones. And then they don't have the power to fight back because all the focus is on the children. And the candies also make some kind of addict and make the children addict to the candy. And if they don't get the candy, they get screaming, blah, 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 whatever they do. And that is also one part of the control mechanism. And if parents begin to say no to the candy industry and maybe bake something together with a child or do some homemade sweets, then a lot of those problems are avoided.
It's very interesting at the moment that in the UK, most of the chocolate, Kit Kats, um, Snicker bars, whatever, even Lindt, some of the big makes of, bars of chocolate, certainly Cadbury's, there's actually no chocolate in the chocolate anymore. They've changed the ingredients and they're not putting cocoa powder in the chocolate anymore. They're putting sludge or lab grown created chocolate alternatives. And this happened to myself a while ago now. I'm not a big chocolate fan. I'll go weeks or months without eating chocolate, and then I go, oh, I've got to have some chocolate and have a bit of chocolate. You have a bit of, and then I won't eat it for a long time. And I hadn't eaten any chocolate for probably 4 or 5 months, long time. And I really fancied some chocolate, and I had some chocolate. It didn't taste right, and it made me feel quite unwell. I've not eaten chocolate since, and I have no intention eating chocolate in the future because the chocolate on the shelves is no longer chocolate and can't be sold as chocolate in
Mm,
some countries. Shocking,
yep,
absolutely shocking that something that has been a staple treat or a badness for multiple years, you've now got to search really, really to find chocolate that is actually chocolate and will not cause you harm.
yep. And always connected with the dumb elites to dumb us down, to make us weak, to make us not have the strength to fight back and say no. So we have to
Something
take the power back.
we do. Something I was talking to Isabella about. I was telling her a story about when I was taxi driving and having a conversation with one of my customers, and they were having issues. And I said, well, just say no. And
Mm.
they said, well, yeah, but then they asked us to express ourselves or explain ourselves from the no.
Yep.
And I said, no is actually a sentence. And no is a sentence. It doesn't need explanation. When we say no, no is no. And we have been programmed into having to explain ourselves, express ourselves, make excuses for the no. But no is no and needs no explanation, no excuse. That's it. Very interesting that in law in the United Kingdom, we've all been taught that acts and statutes or mandatory during this period. It's mandatory, you must do it, it's the law. It's actually not the law. The law only works when you agree to it, not when you're forced to do it. So when you say no to something, like most of the audience here didn't wear masks or take certain interventions or didn't take medicines, we said no. There was fundamentally nothing they could do with it. And even though they gave out tickets, the police actually gave tickets to people or fines out. Once the dust had settled, everybody who had been given a fine was reimbursed their money and the fines were ripped up. The tickets were ripped up because they were illegal, because they had not consented to the law, and so the law had no bearing. And all you had to say was no. It didn't need an excuse or an explanation. And this is a very powerful thing that we're now stepping into. It's a very interesting concept when we start to look at who really has the power in this realm. That's us.
Mm.
All of you are the true power. And when you say no to what they're doing, and we see this very clearly on Facebook with everyone saying they're not having it, they're not having it. They're all saying no fundamentally, that they're not going to comply with the grasshoppers anymore.
Mhm.
This is a real key period. Now, we can change the realm, we can change the outcome of everything by verbalizing this. Really interesting. The universe is listening to us because we are the universe. We're all one, we're all connected. Nobody is better than you, and you are no better than anybody else. We're all equal within the universe. And our voices have exactly the same power as everybody else's. Really important key point, this one. So when you express your non-compliance to something, I do not agree to, and I will not be doing this, the universe will listen to you and you're creating the new reality. It's like, say, digital ID in the United Kingdom. The majority of the United Kingdom has said, we will not comply to this. We will not accept this. We will not engage in this. And currently, they haven't been able to, and they're struggling to implement a system because there's enough people saying no, and they're changing the spell that's been placed upon us via the grasshoppers, the dumb elites.
Yep.
Now, silence is also agreement. This is very key. So when the government or they place something upon us and nobody says anything about it, that is an agreement. That's the way they work it. That's the way they have created the spell upon us. Direct action isn't always needed. Just to verbalize out loud into the universe and say no works. And the more people say, I ain't doing that, that's not coming into my reality, means it won't.
Yeah. And they use the fear factor, especially if you have a job, you have to keep your job, you're afraid to say no because you got maybe gonna lose your job, or express your opinion about certain things for friends or family because you are afraid they're gonna leave you. But if they were your truly friend, true family that loves you, they would accept you. They would have listened to you. And maybe it's somehow better not to have enemies around you that pretends to be friends than the real friends. So, but also by saying no or speaking your mind, you can help so many other people, because there could be people that, okay, why don't you want to? And they sincerely ask it because they don't know why. And by explaining your facts, you can also help a lot of people, and those in return can help other people. And we're going to have the ripple effect. And suddenly, one person turns into a million that says no.
Now, as we go into this period deeper and deeper and more, I'm certain June will be a build up and July is going to be absolutely wild, and so is August. And we will look at this in the future in Celestial Trine videos that we've got planned coming up. But an offshoot of what this is going to bring is the governments are going to get more and more desperate. As they
Yes.
lose their power and grip, the governments are going to get more and more desperate. More and more craziness will come out. Bigger and bigger and more stupid and silly rules will be placed upon us. And I believe that this will have a boomerang effect upon the public as it will become more and more obvious what's going on. In actual fact, the government knowing that they had no power in the first place will become a reality,
Yeah.
and the fear will drop from us and go on to them. Isabella, I wonder if you could pull some cards on that situation about the switch over from the fear and the power, and what would the cards indicate, and what are they showing about this transitional period that we're in now? Would that be okay for you to do a
Yeah.
reading on that?
But before I do it, I just have to give an example. Here in Sweden, not long time ago, the government forbid people to throw away any cloth material in the trash. You could not throw away a pair of old socks or a t-shirt, or anything, because it's not, it's against the climate, or whatever stupid explanation they had. But people didn't follow it. They throw away. Because, okay, if you can throw away a plastic garbage bag, why can you not throw away a pair of old socks? So people throw away anyway, and they have to back down from that rule. And it was going to be fines and controls and cameras in the trash room or whatever they was threatening with, but didn't go through. Nobody follow it.
No, they only have power if we agree to their power, and we
Mhm.
don't anymore, and we're not.
Excuse me, once again the question, because I was talking
Yeah.
about.
Um,
Bugs.
Are we now going to see the reversal of the fear dropping from us and the fear coming into the government, more and more control? And is this the beginning of something new? Are we are we at that point now where we really are
Dropping
seeing
the fear and yeah, send it back to sender.
that's
Mm,
the one?
mm. Let's take these ones. Mhm. Yes, indeed. Oh my God, it could not be better cards. In the tarot cards, we have Six of Swords. That means a long journey, leaving something behind. The Last Judgment. They're gonna be judged. Knight of Wands, quick happening, something we're gonna come into action very soon. On the Oracle cards, we have a dove. And this transaction or this fear from the people to the elites will go quite peaceful. It will not be like mass murderings of politicians or blowing their homes up. No, it will be very peaceful. And here we have primal shark. The shark moves with relentless forward motion. Trust your instincts completely. Keep moving to stay alive and confront fears directly.
The card
That's
even
what it
talks
says.
about fear. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
So people will be confronting the fears and they will move forward. And stork is a symbol of birth, new life, new beginnings. On the dice, we have a heart. We have dirty laundry in the sun. So the politicians, we have dirty laundry below the judgment. So they will be judged. Their dirty laundry will come out for everyone to see. And the people will be moving forward as sharks without fear. And what will happen to those who had those dirty laundry? Here we have someone tied to a chair. So they will be tied down. They will make, and they are immobile. So those elites will finally be immobilized. They will not be able to act anymore through this judgment. So yes, we are heading forward steadily, peacefully, uh, to say no without fear. And below the dove, we had a heart. So it's loving and peaceful protest. And you can
But
do it at home. Just visualize no and shout it out. No. In your mind, you can even say it loud. No, I do not consent.
they were brilliant, brilliant cards, weren't they?
Mhm.
You know,
Super.
yeah, yeah. I wonder, do the cards have any last message for the audience before we wrap up this show? Because I mean, not that I think we need a last message particularly, because that was just so good, but I just wonder if they have a last message for us moving forward
Mm.
in the coming weeks or months.
A last message, an advice to all of us.
Perfect.
Oh, that one's come out. And let's take a dice. Mhm. Okay, last advice. In the tarot cards, we have Seven of Cups, Four of Cups, Nine of Cups. On the oracle cards, we have an owl, and below it says wisdom. Here we have in 40 days and 40 nights, a period of trial, purification, or testing is underway. You are in the middle of it. Endurance now guarantees. And here we have the ruins. And here, daddy. With other words, we should not have daddy issues. We should not be dependent on anybody. Because what is coming, it will be a lot of revelation about a lot of lies. And this could be very discomfortable. We could get upset. We could get, oh my God, we cannot trust anybody. What is the word going? Oh my God. You can get really depressed when more and more truths are coming up and how bad it has been. But we should focus on Nine of Cups, and Nine of Cups, your wishes coming true, our fulfillment. All the cups will be filled with whatever you wish for. So focus on what you want, what outcome you want. Don't get stuck in disappointment. Mm. We will have a lot of access to deep knowledge and wisdom. So it's almost like something will open up inside of us. And a lot of people will have downloads of deep spiritual wisdom or deep knowledge about how things really are. And it's a download not from this dimension, it's from higher dimensions. So higher dimension will open up channels for us to see more clearly or connect the dots. And when we are able to connect the dots and we are not just stuck on this dot, that is the only solution. But there is a dot here, dot here, dot here, dot here, dot here, and we can see the whole pattern. Then the old system will end in ruins. And we will be able to fulfill our deepest wishes. And we have a period of 40 days and 40 nights. So it could be that within 40 days or 40 nights, something big will happen that will make us depressed, but also the possibility to gain a lot of wisdom. Something will open up and we will get that deep pure knowledge directly from the source of creation. And the daddy issues will disappear. That's like the last words.
That's brilliant again, though, isn't it? And it just confirms again everything we've been talking about. We have really good times coming in. In
Yeah.
actual fact, when we look back at this time, although it's hard, we'll look back at this as fondness because the hardness of and the trickiness and the trials and tribulations that we're going through now, yes, it could get a lot worse, but we'll look back at this and we'll go, oh my God, wasn't that just one of the best times? Because what came out of that was the growth that we needed, the push we needed to take the next step forward, open ourselves up and allow in all this amazing information that's always been there available to us that we
Mm.
couldn't see.
And I just want to mention here on this card, I don't know if it's, you can see there is an owl, and on the owl's head there is a crown. And owls, they hunt during nighttime. They are night creatures. And also the night, the occult just only means hidden. So hidden knowledge will be given to us. And the crown on the owl's head symbolizes the crown chakra, will open up, will glow. So we will be able to understand hidden knowledge or knowledge that has been hidden from us. Yeah, and that is also, I think, very important. The crown chakra being activated for downloads. And suddenly, from nowhere, people just know. They have not studied it. They have not made a big scientific papers on a specific topic. They just know because they will be opened up and the knowledge will be downloaded into them.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. For me, I have nothing else to add to this. It's hopefully the audience, a lovely community, has got a lot out of this. The card reading was very clear. The crystal ball was very clear. We are going through a period of change now.
Yes, we are. And hang on to your hats. It's gonna be quite windy, but
As
very
what,
interesting.
as one of our friends would say, buckle up, buttercups. So with that, everybody, it's goodbye for me. Thank you
And
very much for watching.
the same here. And please don't forget, if you have liked what you have seen and heard, please click uh, share, subscribe, and like button. And if you have not subscribed to Gary's channel, Gary Alternative Interaction, please do so. Or to my channel, Tarot by Isabella. And we wish you all a wonderful uh, day, evening, morning, whatever you could be. And hopefully, we're going to see each other soon again.
Bye, everybody. Love, light, and blessings. Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.